Alexa, is it raining now? Lonnie, what's going on, brother? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, good. I'll just step out of the room for a minute. Let me make you host. Make host. Okay, are you host now?
Yes, I am.
Awesome. All right, well, Van Michael's in the waiting room where he was, so he's still there, so you can let him in. And then I am going to head out. I'm going to go get back in line. So,
Okay.
All right, see you in a minute. Thank you.
This morning, Zach. So unfortunately, we don't have Raleigh Wilkins, our instructor, here today. But with that said, we're happy to have you. How are you doing this morning?
Oh, awesome. Yeah, sorry, I saw Lance's name lit up, but it was you talking, Lucas. So yeah, no worries, man. No worries at all. So I'm doing well, and we will proceed as normal and hopefully give you guys some good tidbits and tips. And of course, ask me anything today. Don't make this too formal, and I'll be happy to answer whatever I can. And I'm wearing the Texas hat today because I'm trying to put it out in the universe that we'll beat Oklahoma on Saturday. So we'll see.
Good stuff. Good stuff. So yeah, we're just admitting some more of our people here in the cohort. Before that, Zach and I connected about a month ago. I was researching roles in Okta and came across his profile, and per best practices from Raleigh, reached out to him and was able to have a great conversation with him, and he was able to provide a lot of great insights in terms of just transitioning service members looking into their initial sales roles. And I left that conversation with a lot of great tips that I'm hoping Zach will be able to share today. So just a little bit of a background on Zach. So he served in the Air Force back in the earlier 2010s, and please correct me if I'm wrong on any of this. So after leaving the Air Force, he transitioned over and started his career in sales, where he currently serves as a regional sales manager at the enterprise level for Okta. So with that, Zach, I'll allow you to introduce yourself and just give some background on your military transition and how you were able to find success in sales, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, well, yeah, thanks for the background and the info. Real quick, how many people you think we're going to be on the call today?
So we have
just a ballpark.
We have about 18 in our cohort, believe, and I know
Okay.
a couple are out. We have individuals doing VA appointments, trying to get everything set up for when they get out. So
Yeah.
we'll probably have a couple more join in throughout the call, but what we have right now is about who we'll have.
Awesome. Yeah, and feel free if you need my permission to record or something, you got it. But so I'll go through my background. So like you said, I was in the military, I was in the Air Force. I was a combat controller. So it was a special operations position, and as all of you are finding out, nothing translates one-to-one to a civilian opportunity on the outside, especially something that has high earning potential. There's not really that you'll do well at this, and so you can do this on the outside, right? And recruiters and hiring managers don't see those skills translate one-to-one, and it's tough to kind of back up your experience and validate it into a civilian opportunity. So I definitely went through those struggles as well. I came out and I started working in a smaller family business, and I decided, hey, that wasn't for me. Luckily, you guys are finding this out earlier on than I did, but tech sales seemed awesome. It seemed like there's an opportunity to have a dynamic work day, the ability to kind of flex your schedule to be able to fit into your life and your kids' lives and do all those things. And of course, the ability to make a lot of money. And you do that through connecting with businesses and finding out what's important to them and seeing if you can partner together. It's a value that goes both ways, right? You cannot just continue to solicit something and sell something that's never going to stick if you haven't found what's important to the prospect or the buyer. So I went through a boot camp. It was actually called Tech Qual. I think it's got some similar, training and background, and it's a similar program. Obviously, Sales Platoon looks pretty great, and I've read through the website and some of the stories of success on there. So I think you guys are all doing the right thing by seeking out these fundamentals, getting these connections, talking to experts, talking through people who have been there and done that. The veteran community has been one of the biggest positives and the best kind of tools to have in your tool belt. Connect, use your network, reach out, ask for mentorship, coffee date, whatever it is. It might sound cliche. You might have heard this drummed into your head a million times, but that is super, super important. So just like you did, Lucas, when you reached out, there's a lot of people like me that are happy to take a 15 or 20-minute call and give you some initial advice and let you run with it and connect down the road on the next steps too. So after I went through a similar kind of sales boot camp, I took an AE job at a company called Shift. I learned a little bit about venture capitalism and connected to that kind of network. Again, that's another eye-opening network that you get entrenched in, and that's kind of the importance of sales, is continuing to build your Rolodex and your network, continuing to learn how to navigate through some of these various ecosystems to find the right people and ask for the right introductions. After that, here we go with the veteran network, right? I was referred internally into Gartner through a veteran connection, right into the enterprise business after being an AE for only about a year and a half at Shift, or 2 years. So you kind of get to level up in your career as you show people what you can do, you can back it up, and then you get referred or you get recommended, and then plan for that interview, man, because that is the make or break thing, right? You cannot over prepare. You cannot be overly professional for an interview. No one is ever going to dock you for preparing too much, or researching too much, or understanding too much about the company that you're applying to. So really take those interviews as seriously as possible, and whether you land at that company or not, you can easily be referred to other companies. Everybody knows everybody in these worlds, especially tech sales. So what you do at one company can easily be reflected on another company. So keep that in mind. And then of course I found my way to Okta, and Okta was something that I chose to get into. I saw the writing on the wall as far as how things are going with remote work, how people are connecting and becoming passwordless and securing their apps and things like that. So I, again, networked my way in. Actually, it was a person who was in the Coast Guard who knew a friend of mine that had gone through a skill bridge program years ago, but we started the conversation there, and eventually I got referred into the company and went through a long interview process. But once again, the feedback was all good from that, and ended up at the job here in an enterprise segment. And I think we're all caught up on me. So what else would we like to talk about?
Thank you for that, Zach. So looking at your LinkedIn profile and just considering the different roles that you've had throughout your sales career, could you just talk about some of the differences you've noticed moving from that account executive position all the way to being a regional sales manager at the enterprise level? Some of the things that we're considering as we prospect Sales Platoon, we're looking at different size companies, and we know that the enterprise level is companies that are particularly large, over 10,000 employees typically, I believe. So could you just talk a little bit about your experience in dealing with maybe smaller mid-market businesses and then working your way up to enterprise, just how that kind of looked from a salesperson's perspective?
Yeah, sure. So when I was at Shift, there was no real stratification of companies and where to go after, but typically you might see something, and it usually is aligned to how junior or senior you are, right? It's the same size same side of the scale here. So if you're kind of entry level into the AE role, you're probably going to go after smaller companies, emerging markets, et cetera. As you become more established, you'll have the responsibility to go after companies that have more employees, more end users. Different companies, break down those stratifications based off of either revenue or end user employees. So there's kind of different ways, but they end up about the same, right? What a startup looks like, and what an established company looks like, and what some of the top name brands in the world are, right? And that's where the most tenured AEs get put, and that's what you want to strive to get to. But that's not to say that there's not opportunity at every level. When I was at Shift, which was a startup, I got to interact with Major League Baseball and Uber, but also startups that had 5 or 10 people in it, right? When I went to Gartner, it was a little more solidified. That band was about $750 million in revenue companies and up to almost 20 billion. So again, you just saw that increased, leap in responsibility and who you interact with at the C-suite. Markedly more tenured people. You got to be on your A game to bring them value or to get them on the phone or have them sit down for a presentation, right? So it's a continued growth process. And then of course here at Okta, it's a similar size to what I was doing at Gartner, kind of same band of companies, but I mean, you're talking, gigantic companies that, they like to have these hard caps on where you are, 5 to 10,000 as enterprise. I've got companies in my patch that are 20 or 30,000. So it's not beyond the realm of comprehension to think that you could be dealing with one of the, Fortune 100 company in the enterprise segment or vice versa. So.
That makes sense. Thank you. And before, I don't want to be the only one asking questions here. So just one more from me, and then we'll open it up to the group. So getting a little bit more granular, could you just talk a little bit about your day-to-day process, what a day in the life of Zach Asmus looks like, and how you're able to find success over time through what you do day to day. So if you could just talk a little about how you structure your day, what you do to ensure that you're hitting your revenue targets and your quota. Just if you wouldn't mind diving into that a little bit more.
Yeah, so number one, I calendarize everything. So I go off my calendar. If you think you're going to remember something in your head when you've got, so first backing out, I am responsible for, I have 75 large enterprise accounts in the Houston area, right? So I am constantly thinking about, who's running these companies, are they in the headlines, right? I'm doing my research. So if you don't calendarize stuff, it's going to get lost. You're going to forget who your next meeting's with. You're not going to be able to give yourself that built-in buffer time to get yourself ready for the next meeting. So yeah, number one, I calendarize my days as much as possible. I block out time as needed, and don't be afraid to do that. Give yourself 15 or 30 minutes before or after a meeting so that you're not forgetting to input notes or prep for the next thing, or quickly adjust to something that's come out on the fly before your next meeting. So build that in. That is, do not get sucked into the thought process that you need to fill your whole day back to back to back, because you will not be as productive as if you were to build in those buffers and have the time to reflect, take your notes. If you write them down, digitize them, follow up with the people you said you would, send a quick follow-up note, send the attachment you said you would, get that stuff out of the way quick, so that you're able to move on to the next thing. Because everything you do is a revenue generating activity. That should be your thought process, right? So including that prep time and that follow-up time is also, believe it or not, a revenue generating activity. So keep that in mind as you begin to think about your day. But so yeah, number one, I calendarize things. Number two, I try to break up my days into specific activities, right? Like at the beginning of the week, it makes a lot of sense to go out and account plan, research, see if something's come out, that Monday, see what the stock is doing, these different companies like stocks are doing, is something reacting a certain way. So you're just kind of planning out your week, but you're also sitting there and you are keeping yourself abreast of what's going on in all your accounts. Like if you don't make that day, then you will let days and weeks blur together, and you'll be doing other activities, and you'll forget to come back and look at the big picture. And maybe you missed that one of your accounts, just had a big merger and acquisition, because you aren't spending that time sitting there, watching what's going on with your accounts and making sure that you're relevant. Because one little news article like that, or one spike in the stock price, right? Those are all opportunities for you to sell whatever you're going to sell. Data breach, whatever. So comb the internet. Read 10Ks when they come out, which are the SEC filings that basically wrap up a year in review and have forward-looking statements and commitments to where they're going to spend money or invest in their company. So, be up to date on as much of that as possible. Yeah, kind of besides that, you want to make sure that you'll naturally have meetings with your manager, right? You'll have one-on-one sessions every week. Probably some forecasting will go into that, but make the most of those. Lean on that person's experience. Come prepared, right? If you want to ask a question about maybe a presentation you're thinking about building or presenting, like, build it out as much as possible and use that time with your manager, not just hypothesize what it's going to be or theorize about it. Like, pull it up and get to work and use that time to actually be constructive and be doing things. So I typically am more productive in the mornings, so I try to safeguard that time for prep and whatever I kind of need to do. Also, you got to think about how people are going to react to emails and when they're going to open them and read them, right? There might be internally a big rush of emails that happen first thing in the morning. Someone sits down just like I'm doing, and I go through my inbox and I plan my day. Well, they're doing the same thing. They're not going to interact externally as much if there's internal things they got to handle first. So think about when you want to, reach out to the customer, just like how you're planning your own day, right? Put your mind, put yourself in their shoes. So when you're doing your outreach, it's hitting them at a time where they're most receptive for it. And then besides that, I try to, with remote work, lunchtime kind of gets ran over a lot. So don't forget to, build yourself in 30 minutes or so and legit, step away from your computer, eat lunch, recharge, so that you're able to, go about the rest of the afternoon with the right kind of energy and determination. So that's pretty much what a day looks like. And then Fridays, usually we have a team call that kind of recaps the week, highlights wins, etc. So that is a normal kind of, micro and macro view of what it looks like on my end.
Got it. So there's one piece in there that I kind of want to build off of. You mentioned staying up to date on the latest goings on for industries when it comes to stock prices or changes in the market. And one tool that we've been learning to use is Zoom Info, and that's been really grateful just to be able to prospect and find contacts at companies as we prospect for Sales Platoon and finding ourselves that next role post-military. So if you wouldn't mind, if you could speak a little bit more to how current events in the marketplace relate to outreach and just getting a prospect interested in what you're selling. Have you had any experience with being able to generate interest based on what's going on in the market or other current events that are going on?
Yeah, it's good that you guys are getting into Zoom Info, LinkedIn and Sales Navigator, right? Coupling that. That stuff is super powerful. It's a super powerful, prospecting suite. So the more you're engaged in understanding that, the more, the better you're going to look to a potential employer if you already have familiarity with that kind of thing. So definitely figure out how to use that. Use all the features. Have it kick out a report daily to you based on, lots of filters. Like, run those searches and make that time to go in there and if you have it emailed to you, like actually look through the email and just glance through things. You never know. You could see something that has, it tells you there's been a big spike in, C-level leadership hires over the past 3 months or something, right? That indicates lots of things, right? It could indicate a new direction the company's going. It could indicate a serious problem maybe that hasn't been disclosed yet. So it depends on what you sell, but look for those indicators in the market. It's going to be a various, number of things. And obviously, if you're in security and you see a data breach, right? Like, boom, even if it's not their company, but it's a similar company. So you're not only monitoring your own accounts, but you're monitoring the whole industry if you can. So if there, if you got an e-commerce account and you see, Target.com got hacked, like nobody wants to be the next person that's getting hacked, right? If you're selling a security solution, find a way to, smartly send out an email that's, timely and relevant. On LinkedIn and things like that, monitor your networks and get connected to everyone in your account that you can, and follow their posts, follow their promotions. And it's a simple reach outs like, hey, congratulations on the senior director title. No ask on your part. You're just getting your name at okta.com or whatever, right? Like into their inbox. They're looking at it. They're seeing like, wow, this person's actually looking at our account, watching what I'm doing on LinkedIn. Maybe in the future, right, it gets you an in to take another meeting or something. So and it just makes you personable and you're building a rapport even if you're not on a call with the person. So everything you can be doing to maintain professionalism and show that you're one step ahead, or show that when the time is right, you're going to be a trusted partner because of the activities you've done up to that point. Those are all super positive things. So definitely dive headfirst into all the tools that you're being shown and familiarized with now, because they are super helpful and they only go really far in interviews if you can discuss how you've used them and things. That sets people's mind at ease that you're capable of knocking that stuff out. And those are some of the foundations and fundamentals. So if you got that stuff covered, the rest of it is just going to be, you're going to be coachable and teachable, and send a good signal to hiring managers.
Excellent. Thank you for that. And, I could ask questions all day, but I definitely want to open it up to the rest of our cohort members here. So, if anyone else has questions for Zach, please feel free to chime in or raise your hand, and we'll continue this conversation.
Yeah, and whether the questions come up or not, I've also got just a couple of things that I think would be good takeaways. So let me know when we want to incorporate those after the questions or beforehand.
Yeah, we got Jason's hand up right now, so go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, go ahead, Jason. What's going on?
I'm finishing up my time at Fort Bragg with the 82nd. I started off down in Texas, actually, in Sandy Jello, Goodfellow Air Force Base there, and Fort Hood with 4th Infantry. I had an apartment there in Austin for a little while.
Nice.
Yeah, love that city. I don't know how it is nowadays. I probably keep my comments
expensive,
myself, but
it's expensive. We can all agree it's expensive. I think.
Yeah, expensive. So saw a Jimmy Eat World concert there. So that was pretty cool. But
nice.
Just what do you remember from your transition as a soft guy, a combat controller, to civilian world? And were there any other options you were considering, and what your discovery process was that led you to where you are now?
Yeah, that's a good question and super relevant for everybody on this call. So I wanted to do that job forever. I loved it. But then again, I started thinking, like, is that really like is that really what I want to do? Do I want to perhaps miss this window to transition and still be relevant, to start a new career and be coachable and be viewed as somebody that the company wants to take an opportunity on, hiring and reteaching. So number one thing I did was decide that in my mind that I wasn't going to be in the military forever, and I compartmentalized like my military experience, and I was happy with it, and I was super satisfied, and I made sure that I understood that, because you can always go back and say, what if, or I wish I was doing this, or send me back to Afghanistan, I'll take care of this. Like, that happens all the time, and you guys are going to run into it, and that's totally fine. That's part of the process. But the quicker you can become comfortable with accepting that you did an awesome job here at this time doing this thing, and now you're going to move up and over to this thing, you know, it's just going to put your mind at ease, and it's going to open up a lot of opportunities for you. So that was kind of the first thing that I did. I decided I'm happy, I'm satisfied. I, you know, fulfilled my contract. I did all the things I aimed to do, and what's next? And then when I looked at what's next, the world's your oyster, right? So it's true. You can go back to school, you can reinvent yourself, you can do whatever. Everyone here is making a leap into sales, and I think that's an awesome thing to do. There's a lot of potential. There's uncapped commissions. There's a lot of opportunities to be in leadership within companies. Almost every, you know, C-level executive has sales experience under their belt. There's no way that you can lead a company without understanding how they make money. And there's no way you can make money if you don't understand some of the basics of prospecting and making your taking your marketing pitch and making it relevant for the prospect. So those are definitely some crucial things. I will say the other thing that was super important, and it took a while, but figuring out your story in the military to land where you're interviewing or whatever, right? Like whether you're talking to a customer and it comes up, whether you're talking to an interviewer, hiring manager, you got to be able to encapsulate those years or decades spent in the military into a 10 or 15-second soundbite that answers their immediate questions and asks them, you know, leaves them like wanting to know more and connects the dot. It's hard to do, but you're also connecting the dots into what you did in the military and why that experience isn't just some, you know, black hole of nothingness that they got to start over with. You know, this is, you are professional, you were autonomous, you went and you know, were trusted to embed with, you know, other services, other companies, other platoons, or, you know, you represented your company or your, you know, your branch of the Air Force. So mine was a combat controller, and I attached as an individual to other, and like embedded in, you know, SF teams and SEAL teams, and those people have been working together for years together, and then living together, and their kids knew each other and their wives knew each other. And I had to come in a couple hours and gain their trust, so that, you know, when a bomb got dropped from an airplane, they all knew that I knew what the hell I was doing, and I wasn't going to get everybody killed, and they could trust me. And then we were obviously going to sit there and live together for 7 months in a different country. So you take aspects of that.
Yeah.
So you
giving
take
you
that,
food and shelter, and who, you know, it's not getting out of the redheaded stepchild treatment, and be like, oh, okay, these guys can, you know, this is what they bring to the fight. You know what I mean? And this is how they can. So yeah, we've trodden similar paths for sure.
yeah, and that's super
Showing-
relevant in
showing around.
sales.
Yeah.
Yes, you were able to pop in, you know, figure out what needed to be done at another organization.
Mhm.
You delivered it, you repeated it, you know, tweaked it where necessary, and you followed up on it and gave great customer service, blah, 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 right? Like, don't be too cheesy with it, but figure that out in a way that they can look at your resume and say, oh, yeah, those 8 years, I can see some things from those 8 years they spent in the military that do translate over here. I would, you know, that does answer my question about, you know, some of the red flags I had that I didn't understand, you know, translating military resume, et cetera. So if that answers it, Jason.
Yeah, thanks so much. I was trying to, and I guess one last question for Gartner. I have a great mentor, a former supervisor of mine, who mentioned the Gartner reports, like on one of our first calls, and he was giving me the down and dirty on the world of sales. And so he mentioned the Gartner reports being helpful to evaluate markets. Sales lives and dies by the quarterly and annual. Could you expound on that? Do you like the Gartner reports, basically, as a crude question?
No, yeah, it's a good thing to bring up. What do you know, think about us as consumers today. If you went to go buy something, you'd probably pop on Amazon, you'd see how many stars it had, how many reviews it had, you'd read through them, right? You want to make sure your $200 that you spend on headphones is money well spent. And it's the same thing for other organizations, right? And where do they go? Especially the technology organizations. They look to Gartner. They look at Forrester. Those are two kind of leading review companies and research and review companies. And if you are familiar with them and you're familiar with how to read their summaries and you're abreast of what changes are and what they're looking for, then you're going to be relevant and you're going to be speaking the consumer's language, right? So yeah, just like we kind of go to Amazon reviews for a lot of things that we're probably looking for with to protect, you know, our purchases and our spend, make sure it's the right thing on the first try. That's what companies, tech companies use Gartner and Forrester for. So definitely a good question and a good, another one of those things where you take yourself and you're putting yourself in your prospect's shoes and thinking, why would I talk to this company or what, you know? So definitely two really good resources. Now you can't just go download that stuff yourself. They charge you money for it, but companies will, if they get named, you know, vendors that you might work for or resellers or whatever, they're going to be named in these reports, and they're going to, you know, throw that screenshot of the, you know, the main kind of one pager on their site. So it's definitely good to be familiar with.
Thanks, Zach. Appreciate it.
Yeah. What's up, Tina?
Hello, Zach, and thanks so much for joining us today. We appreciate your time. I'm an Air Force veteran also, and I'm a Navy spouse currently.
Okay.
And I just wanted to know, did you ever seek out a mentor? And if so, at what point in your transition did you do that? Or did you wait till you were already like established in your sales career? So if you could just expand on that.
Yeah, really good question and an important topic. I did seek out mentorship, but probably later on than I should have. And this is a great time to, you know, think back on that and advise you to consider early mentorship, right? But you're not going to go anywhere with a mentor until you've really kind of decided what you want to get out of a mentorship. Sometimes people enter into these, you know, mentorships and relationships, and it's so vague, and you know, there's good things that are going to happen, but the more you understand where you want to go and the more pointed you can ask those questions and the more tangible like next steps you can work on, like the better the mentorship is going to be. So I eventually found one through it was like this special operations group, Elite Meet. You know, they partnered me with somebody that it wasn't a veteran, but understood kind of the veteran transition struggle and things like that, and he was in sales. And you know, talked to him briefly, and then of course got busy with life. But then when I was interviewing at Gartner, he was like, you know, I reached out to him again, and he was like, you want to run the interview through me and, you know, practice? And I was like, no, I'm good. I think I got it. It's tomorrow. And he was like, no, I insist, like 30 minutes, like, let's go. And he just like stripped it down from there. And I mean, I could not have felt like, you know, more kind of embarrassed or unprepared or underprepared. And it was so good to get that repetition out of the way prior and have someone that was not afraid to call it like they saw it, because nobody needs to just sit there and pat you on the back. You know, of course, if you do some great things, you deserve the recognition. But besides that, you owe it to yourself to find a mentor that's going to be as real with you as possible, so that you're not spinning your wheels, you're not coming unprepared to a interview, you're not sitting there with an inflated you know, ego or any sort of entitlements to why you should get this job, right? Like nobody else is going to think that on the other side of the table. So the quicker you can find a mentor that's just going to be transparent and coach you and expect you to be actively listening and learning and growing, the better you're going to be. So it's hard to find those, you know, I don't know how to say like, this is how you find someone exactly like that. But if you are seeking out mentorship on these different platforms, and there's various resources for it, I would encourage you to find somebody that's, you know, going to be as upfront and real with you as possible. And sometimes it's better to hear those things before you step into, you know, an interview, right? So better to learn it from that person and practice and grow before you know, get the real at bat.
Yeah, very good. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Hey, Zach, thanks for joining us. Appreciate your time today. I'm the sales ops guy here at Sales Platoon, and this week we are diving into what Raleigh says is probably the hardest thing of conceptual selling, getting the cohort in front of companies, talking about Sales Platoon, how our candidates can help ramp faster and start earnings of revenue quicker in companies because of the 12 weeks of training that they get. Just wondering if you could talk a little bit on the second half of that, is using those same companies to kind of create relationships for a possible employment opportunity at the same time, right? So connecting, networking. I'm just wondering if you could talk a little bit about the importance of, or your process of investigating companies, networking into a company, and what it is that companies are looking for from somebody basically with no experience coming out of the military, how they can strengthen their resume and use that as a twofold process as they move forward.
Yeah, a lot to unpack there, but I think these are all great questions. And, I have written down a few things, and I think maybe this is a great time to kind of share them. But, when I go to look at the right company to interview with, or I'm seeking out a position, or I'm kind of curious as to what my next gig is going to be, I definitely do my homework on them. I see if it's like a trending opportunity, if they're a leader in the industry, if they've got a strong outlook in the future, right? So and especially if their culture is good. Nobody wants to go to work and feel like they crave being back in the military and waking up at 4 a.m. and having someone yell in your face, right? Like, this is supposed to be a growth from that. You went and you did the hard stuff. You learned the fundamentals, you learned the basics, you learned how to take care of yourself and your teammates, and represent America. And now you're supposed to be afforded this opportunity to have more of a 9-to-5 structure, and less kind of, I guess, intense or in your face leadership, right? You're supposed to have some autonomy here. That's what sales is about, and that's what you should all be trying to strive to get to. So I would incorporate the right culture in your job hunt. What you don't want to do is you don't want to be a serial job hopper, right? Of course, we've talked through my background, and I do have lots of history of right at 2 years or so, and then I'm on to the next thing. And as long as you can explain that was growth, or that was on your terms, or you showed success, and then you took the next thing that was right for you, and it showed career growth and trajectory. Now, of course, that that's washed away. That's no longer a red flag, but you've turned that into a strength on your part. But if you end up at the wrong spot and you take the next spot, and you're just looking for the promise of OTE or whatever, and you're not looking through who your manager is going to be, or you're not interviewing that company back as they interview you, you're probably not going to last very long there, because it's not going to be a good environment to work for. So just as much as you're hoping to be qualified into a company, you should be thinking the same way. You should be interviewing the person across the table and thinking, like, why do I want to be there? What about this company is going to create an environment where both of us are successful? So that's definitely one thing. And then as you talk about yourself and your resume to potential future employers and things like that, I think we kind of hit on some of those things. You had so much responsibility in the military. It's hard to put that into terms people can understand, but that is definitely something I would just lean back on. That you went from, whether you went straight from high school or you went from college, you had a different job. One time you've already done this gigantic career transition into being whatever specialty you had in the military, and you were trusted by the U.S. government to go out and do these massive things with giant toys and expensive equipment. You already did that, right? You sat in high school, or you sat in college, or you were an accountant, and then you made this giant thing over here, and you did this, and you learned all these skills, and you can do that again, right? So figure out a way to tell that story, that this is not that big of a hurdle for you. People do it all the time. You're learning the basics, you're going through the right courses right now, and people should have complete faith in your ability to make that transition one more time. Sorry, Lonnie, I don't know if I answered everything. If I didn't, yeah, just bring it back up and I'll address some.
Yeah, no,
points.
that was good. I think it's important for them to know, like, a lot of our lunch learn speakers talk about that cultural fit, right? To make sure that you're interviewing back, asking the right questions. I know myself, I didn't even know before I came to Salesforce, like that I can ask questions in an interview and basically interview back. That was new
Yeah.
to me. So, but the one thing that we don't really talk about too much, because not a lot of companies are hiring a ton of veterans or enough to really stand out. I know it's becoming a more and more popular thing. So from your perspective, do you know of anything aside from our experience in how to translate it? What are companies looking for from military people that might help them stand out in the interview process? Do you have insight on that at this point?
You know, there's a couple answers to that. So one, just no matter, you know, who this person is that, you know, you're interviewing with, or what program they profess to have at their company as far as hiring veterans, you're going to probably bump into someone that has no idea what you did, what you're doing, how their program actually fits in the company. Depending on the size of the company, you know, the further away people can get from some of the core things that the company is trying to say that they do. So always be ready to, you know, back up what you did and talk about it and tell them and stand up for yourself, right? Don't just assume this is going to be conveyed before the interview or whatever, right? So companies, you know, want to make pledges to hire veterans. The thing that I see is there's plenty of entry level opportunities for veterans, but like, where's that kind of next, you know, right above entry level? Like, where do you get out of that 2 to 3 year kind of slog and pop in as, you know, potentially like a little early for the company, but it really is the right thing for you, and you're able to ramp quickly and take on a lot of responsibility. So just, you know, just it's a tough thing to kind of balance the two, but you're going to have to probably do something for a year and a half at a company. There's going to be some cold calling, there's going to be emails, you're going to be proving yourself, but you're going to be growing. And I think every one of you should keep in the back of your mind that you're going to grow faster than everyone else, right? This is not, you're not a 22-year-old out of college, you're not this or that. You are a professional, you are currently onboarding and learning and earning your stripes here, but you're going to earn them faster than everybody else. And you deserve that kind of shot in that discussion and transparency with your management that you want to grow and you want all the opportunities to prove yourself, right? So always be volunteering for stuff, always be out in front, always come prepared, always have polished stuff. Now, the other thing that you can do at companies is a lot of companies, including Okta, have a veteran employee resource group, which is veterans at the company. They're just kind of banding together on Slack or Teams or whatever, and getting together for happy hours or whatever, and they're forming committees and they're pushing internal changes to, you know, to veteran hiring and things like that within the company. So if you can find somebody that says they're in a veteran employee resource group, or you can get on a landing page at a company and they have a diversity and inclusion section and they talk about employee resource groups and they've got a veteran one, they're probably going to maybe list the, you know, who leads that program at their company. Reach out. It's you know, that's what Lucas did, right? And I lead the veteran employee resource group at Okta. We're a 5,000 person company, but we only have 60 members in our veteran group right now. There's definitely more out there. It's just, you know, when do people have the time to join the group? And we just started it, but it's super high touch, right? If somebody has a need in that community, we all feel a bond to that person, and we'll go kind of above and beyond to do some outreach or help a candidate go through the process, or, you know, step up and volunteer to help mentor somebody on a promotion, et cetera. So think about that as roads in as well as an inroads. When you're looking at different companies and looking to network and validating, you know, if there's real opportunity for you to come in a sales role, like as a veteran, there's a lot of potential for someone to kind of look after you or send you in the right direction, you know, versus the standard kind of recruiting atmosphere that you see.
Awesome, thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah, I have one more question from my end. Thank you for all the insights today, Zach. Much appreciated. One thing that I want to touch on a little bit before we wrap up. So we're getting into a lot of cold calling this week, and last week as well. We started. Right now, we're focused on medical supplies and PPE, proper protective equipment. And we partnered with a medical supplies company called PPE Platoon. And right now, we're focused on just cold calling these various accounts and trying to introduce ourselves as an alternative supplier, and one that will also do a no-cost audit for these organizations in the way that they are spending currently for their medical supplies. So with that kind of background, we're realizing this week, I know especially for me, that we're told in sales that you're dealing with a lot of failure. It's been these past couple of weeks where that's something we've experienced firsthand, is just a lot of no's, a lot of not interested, a lot of just trying to overcome objections with some of the things that we've been taught, still to no avail, but in some cases, I should say. But with that, how do you approach the idea of failure as a salesperson? What's your mindset around it? We know that it's important for learning, and it's a given in this profession. So what's your perspective on failure, and how do you approach it? How do you learn from it? And how do you use that to motivate you if you do?
Yeah, like Lonnie just chatted, that is a great question. That is yeah, let me make sure I'm saying this correctly, but if someone answers the phone, that's not failure. That is an opportunity to get better and practice on a live person and get real feedback from an audience, right? So every time somebody answers the phone, every time you looked up a phone number on Zoom info and it rings and it doesn't go to voicemail or something, these are all little successes. And sales is not about getting some giant contract landed on your lap because of a 30-second phone call. This is a building thing, and you're gonna have to build these little foundations, little building blocks that need to come into place before something all comes together at the end. And take every little success, as small as they are, and build on it. Like, what did I do? I found the correct person, the correct phone number. I called them, they answered, they got off the phone in 10 seconds. Well, tomorrow you call someone, you do the same, initial 3 steps, and they stay on the phone for 30 seconds. And then the next day, you get someone on the phone for 2 or 3 minutes, and they want to follow up email, and they want to look over some stuff. So I would flip it around. I'd say, like, you're not failing, you're not learning so much from failures, but you're learning how to put it all together with little successes, right? So you can either view it as a 99% failure or like a 1% success, and then how you turn that 1% into 2, and then 2 into 5, and now your hit rate's expanding, and your message is hitting home because you've really kind of taken what is an opportunity and an opportunity to grow, and you're learning from it, and you're adapting, and you're evolving. So that is exactly how I'd kind of flip that and think about it. Because if you don't focus on little wins or little victories, it can beat you down. So don't let it do that. This is, life's too short for that. And have a positive mindset. And when you get even the tiniest little success, figure out, reverse engineer that thing and figure out how it happened and how to make it better the next time. And you will find yourself a lot of success, and work will be a lot more fun. If you allow yourself to kind of think that, man, something I just did worked really well, like, let's try it again. Like, the more eager you are to get on the phone the next time, you're going to exude that through the phone, you're going to exude it through emails, you're going to exude it through a presentation, and people are going to be more likely to stick around for longer on the next call and eventually buy something from you.
Excellent, thank you. Before we wrap up here and take our group photo, as we always do at the end of these, just want to open it up to any last questions that we have for Zach. Now, I'm not in
Zach,
charge here.
sorry. Zach also mentioned you had a couple of tidbits written down. Did you cover everything you wanted to cover today? Like, what's one thing that you could leave them with that you wish somebody would have told you?
Yeah, maybe not one thing, but here's 3 little things, right? And it'll be quick. Master the basics. Everyone here knows the stuff of showing up in the right time, in the right uniform, right place. that is so relevant when someone's not holding your hand at work. It's disgusting, like how much more ahead of the game you are by just doing those 3 things. So continue that mindset, no matter what kind of, you know, culture or how much people are kind of slacking, and you think you can just kind of drop down to that level, like maintain your professionalism and just do those 3 things, and you'll already be way ahead of a lot of people. So many people don't show up to calls, show up late, have excuses, change things at the last minute. Just be that kind of steady, like, I'm here, I'm available, I said I'm going to do what I'm doing what I said I was going to do, and just follow through, and you will be way ahead of people. Yeah, practice doesn't make perfect, but practice makes better first impressions. And right now, you might only get one opportunity to get in front of somebody. It's too easy to send you to a spam inbox. It's too easy to, you know, just not open any vendor emails or whatever. Your opportunity for you to bump into people, you know, at happy hours and things like that is, you know, it's hit or miss right now in today's environment. So your online identity and impressions you make initially are everything. So practice. So when someone answers that phone and you've got it figured out, you're not a robot, but you've got it figured out on how to get to the next step, and hit home with something that's interesting for them, and something that somebody wants to follow up with you on. And then, you know, the third one is, you know, research, plan, and follow up. If you've got that time, build it in. You cannot come too over prepared. You know, go find what the customer is saying. There's so many outlets now to find out what your prospect or your customer is thinking about or saying. Watch YouTube videos, follow them on social media, LinkedIn, right? Like, combine all those platforms and absorb all that. And the more you can let the prospect know that you're aware of their world and what's important to them, like, the easier, you know, potential, you know, match and eventual sale is going to be, based on your understanding and your researching and planning and things like that. So always, you know, spend your free time learning your accounts. There's nothing a manager wants to see more than, you know, you having total control and like mastery and understanding of who you're selling to. You might not hit your numbers sometimes, you might blow them out of the water, but at a minimum, you're doing the right things across the board to, you know, with a little tweak and a little, you know, adjustment or suggestion for management, you can easily, you know, be a high achiever with a little feedback. So I would say do those 3 things, and then, like, tiny little tips that some people might not mention. If you're sending an email, send an email to yourself first, right? If it's the first time you're doing it, if you're throwing in a picture or a link, just send it to yourself first. Open it up on your computer and open it up on your phone. Make sure it reads well, make sure the pictures align, make sure the links work. It's just too easy to think about losing a sale because you didn't embed the link properly, or it went to a different website. Just send it to yourself and open it up. Make sure it reads well on your phone. People are consuming this stuff on their mobile devices as well. So if you've got all this text and you got to scroll down 3 pages to figure out what you're actually talking about, like, that's not going to work. Make sure when you open it up on an iPhone or whatever, you know, the ask is clear on that first kind of section. And then something that's just been kind of gold for me in my career is, you know, always enhancing my kind of verbal and written skills. But there's an Amazon writing tips thing, and you got to Google it, and it's like maybe a Twitter post or something, and it is just 3 pictures of a whiteboard, and it's just handwritten out in dry erase marker, but it basically tells you if you can use, you know, data instead of superlatives and this or instead of that, like, you know, how to reduce things to like kind of the perfect just mix of words. So I would definitely look for that. I was going to just have the link handy today, but I think it's like 3 Twitter posts. So, you know, it's a little homework. Do a little Googling and find those Amazon writing tips and practice those in your next outreach and follow up. I think those are just gold. So of course, defer to Lonnie and the team, but I think those have been helpful for me.
Yeah, Zach, I remember during our first conversation, you mentioned those writing tips, and I was able to find those with a quick search, and we'll be able to share that with the class in our Slack channel. So once again, I don't have authority to release this for lunch. I'll leave that to Lonnie and Tina, but I know before we go, we like to take a class photo. I believe Lonnie is our class photographer. I might have that wrong, but yeah, we just do a quick little photo for our social media postings later and try to get the word out about Sales Platoon.
Cool.
All right, so I will count us down. 3, 2, 1. All right, thank you, Zach. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. It was an honor and pleasure. And everyone, connect with me on LinkedIn if it helps. Don't be a stranger. And if there's something I can do, reach out and ask. I'll see what I can do on my front. But good luck with everything, and have an awesome rest of your day.
Thanks,
Thank
Zach.
you, Zach.
Appreciate you.
Thank you, Zach.
Yeah, take care.